it requires like a certain level of like bravery or just like putting yourself out there. And I'm like tiptoeing, like I made like one LinkedIn post. I'm just like trying to condition myself to be like, I need to make myself an online presence. And so like, I guess is like a video, like deep dive into that, just like experience.
Real. So I guess like, yeah, let's just go down the rabbit hole and then we'll come back and do like the formal introduction.
Yeah.
But I guess like why do you, it seems like you see it as like a place that you want to grow in. I guess like, why aren't you satisfied without being an online presence?
For me, it's just there's so many benefits. I feel like getting engagement. Like I kind of want like an actual like community engagement of like similar-ish people to where it's like, oh, I'm like not even like 100% interested into the things I am, but there's so much to learn. Like I follow this guy, Lovely Transposition. And basically what he did was he would literally just record 2-hour live streams. He's like coding every day until I graduate. And so I'm like in his Discord server and like that community that he's built up of like about 5,000-ish people. Like it's really cool. Just like, oh, that's your community. Like it's something you made. It's like just like posting your growth and like what you've learned alongside with that is like you can learn so much like by being engaged with somebody in that way.
Real. Oh, cool. That's real. Okay. Yeah, I guess like when you mentioned that, like that's kind of like, I don't know, that resonated with me because that's high key like one of the main motivations for like why I'm doing it as well.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, if I'm gonna be taking L's, I guess I'm taking L's in public. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but that's that, and it's like it's good for like really anything because I feel like on like you can't not really have like a decent online presence, especially like within like our like tech culture. It's like having an online presence is something that you can kind of like advocate for, or just like getting used to having that public communication, whether it's like within companies themselves. It's, oh, you have to get used to advocating like, hey, I want a promotion, I want this location change, I want a site switch, or like interacting with hiring managers or people from different companies. It's you have a presence and you're getting used to that like high level communication. And then especially if it's like more educational, right? Then you're like getting used to just expressing your ideas, like putting pen to paper. And then like when I found like while I was working, that's like that getting used to like communicating complex ideas is definitely like something that I want to get better at. And like I kind of started building while I was interning.
Got you. For real. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I guess like to that point of like times in the workplace, I guess it might be a good like point to like insert the introduction / like backgrounds.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a bit more about like your experiences like being in like corporate software development. But to that point, my name is Ruben Steven. I'm a sophomore at MIT studying mechanical engineering and computer science. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with.
Hello, I'm Robel Schwarz, a future Amazon engineer scholar and 2-time Amazon SDE intern.
Real. And so, yeah, I guess like, how has that experience been so far? I guess start backwards. And then start and then work backwards. Because I'm also really interested in like what your earlier years were like and like how you set yourself up for the success that you've been having now.
Yeah, I think that's also like kind of a really important like facet of even how I got like into Amazon and into big tech those earlier years. But like kind of I guess going reverse chronological order, it's like the end of the Amazon experience and like being in corporate, it's drastically different from the start, because like when you're going into a large tech company, you expect to write a lot of code. And then like obviously I did write a lot of code, but like the benefits that you get within that working environment is one-on-one mentorship with like a senior engineer and senior product managers, and then kind of getting that like true like corporate experience and like company operations and like business operations, right? And so like by the time that it's that the internship experience was over, it's my engagement as like an engineer had like drastically increased, but then those soft skills and those those skills relating to like, okay, how does like Amazon like make money? How's it like profit? Those types of like they're not really leadership skills, but those like core skills that you need to like run and be a part of the business, those drastically increase. And I like that's honestly like my favorite part of it was like, oh, there's so much more here besides just being like a code monkey. Was just was just like learning like, okay, this is like, and then like you can take so many of those aspects and skills and they're so transferable. Like actually one probably my favorite lesson that I learned at Amazon was you don't like, Amazon has a bunch of resources and a lot of other companies do, but Amazon only builds dedicated solutions if it's deterministic of their product or like the end user experience, right? So we use Slack for internal messaging, but we also host our own, like we are made Amazon Chime, which is our video conferencing platform, and then we built it to integrate between the two. But the reason why we have Slack is it's good enough and it's non-deterministic, right? Like the end experience doesn't really matter, but the reason why we built Chime, it's like, hey, this is like a genuine strain on the company, but then like and there's no real good current products like out on the market because Chime's been out in a while and video conferencing didn't really blow up until like 2020. So like before that, then there was like just, okay, all of the software is bad. We kind of have to build our own, but they only do that if it's like kind of forced in. And like getting that like internal perspective is, oh, okay, so you have like a multi-trillion-dollar company, but even then they're only going to focus on things and like the products that actually matter to the end user or to the like current development experience and like getting out good software.
I guess when you say current development experience, you mean as in like for the people that are working under them? Yeah.
So like since like Chime isn't like an external product, it'd be like it is an external product, but we use it heavily internally. And so like that development experience of like, okay, we need to have a nice bridge between like communication pipelines of like remote video conferencing. And that's just a heavy part of like really any large company is like that video conferencing aspect, especially if it's like with like Amazon's national and like international presence. And so you'll have calls internationally or like recorded calls internationally. So it's very like that is a key feature of like the development experience, even though it's not like directly like, oh, it's not like a video, like VS Code or something. Like, but it is like, if you really think about it, it's still a part of like the developer toolkit is interacting and being like engaged within your team.
Gotcha. I guess to the degree that you can, could you like touch a little bit more on like that team aspect and like how your experience, what like obviously if there's any NDAs or anything that
honestly, I haven't gotten NDA check so far, so I think I'm good. But my team experience was actually like kind of odd, and it was really cool for me and like learning from Amazon. But it's like if anybody watches this and is like, oh yeah, this is gonna be like what it's like, that's probably not the case. I got really like Amazon's team structure and organizational structure is very hierarchical, and like within each like individual hierarchy, there's a lot of space of separation in general. So like whatever one team does, unless it's like a direct sister team, which like if you're like in one of the Amazon offices, a lot of the time you'll have like two sister teams that are like pretty close together, like in the same like corner of like the building, and so they'll have like a pretty frequent interaction, but even then there's still like a significant amount of separation.
Real.
So yeah, do you have a question on that?
No, I was just saying real. I guess the question is just like, yeah, within yours, like which specific team were you on during your internship, and then how was your experience of it?
Yeah, so okay. So my team was AFT Outbound Flow, and we kind of were the Amazon has like the 3 mile like or like 3-step process in like terms of like delivery. So you have like the initial order request, which is then like processed by the fulfillment centers, and then that's like initial, and then the fulfillment centers they kind of like go to like, okay, where's can we like the nearest like actual fulfillment process. So like request goes to the server, and then server goes to a fulfillment center and like locate the actual package to get it to the user. And then the last mile step is the actual delivery driver, or like to the individual like doorstep, right? So I was on the middle layer of like the server communication between like the fulfillment centers. What I was doing, however, was very unrelated to my entire team, and so that's why it was funny, because it was my project was a RAG project that was a summarization of the internal Slack channels, right? And so pretty much Amazon has like a lot of internal communication, a lot of Slack channels, and we needed a way to within each fulfillment center, there'll just be like a bunch of messages. They're constantly like dumped in there, and there's no real way to like figure out, hey, at the end of the week, what happened in terms of like headcount, pick rate, or like a bunch of other acronyms that Amazon uses. Like we want to like get general diagnostics, right? And so for that, we built a RAG app. I built a RAG application that you can kind of chat within chat, like have a chatbot that like returns the results of what happened during the week. So you're like, hey, what was the pick rate on this day? And it will return the pick rate and all of the relevant information to that, right? And this would be divided among sites and divided among days. And then we added did a bunch of like parallelism and optimization stuff on top of that. And so that was like kind of my first project that I did over the summer. And then leading to my second project, it was a RAG powered like AI like agent that had like browser control. So I think Claude released like their Claude agent desktop thing. We basically made that internally, and that was my second project. And like while I was making it, it was released. I was like, I don't want to keep working on this.
What?
It was like imagine like coding something and it's literally like a $1 trillion company just like also releases literally the exact thing that you're doing.
So this is your whole project.
Yeah, this is my whole project. I was like, oh, bro, but we developed it internally. We still had to do a bunch of like internal authentication handling and like permissions, which was super complex. But we might go into that a bit more later.
Real.
But yeah.
I guess this one's just like scratching on the top of my ear. Like, what does RAG stand for?
Oh, okay. RAG is retrieval augmented generation, and so pretty much, like AI, like LLMs don't have access to like they have like the general internet and like stuff on top of that, but they don't really have access to like specific things, right? And so what you want to do is like, hey, let's say you have like a bunch of information on Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
LLMs they have a lot of information, but like if you have a bunch of curated informations, you want to augment that data and then ask like an LLM about that. That's kind of like where RAG comes in. Like you can inject your own documents into the LLMs to get the responses from it.
Gotcha.
And so it's a really cool way, and I think you'll see more RAG products coming out of creating like very specific use cases for products and services. And so it like builds on top of the LLM to provide like a more tailored experience.
Yeah. So I guess like would that look like, okay, this is chat, like, I don't know. Right now I see the versions of those I'm seeing is like, okay, this is Chat GPT, but specifically for say artists or like that sort of thing too.
Yeah, that sort of thing. It's like I think I've seen a couple like legal implementations of it where it's like, okay, here's a bunch of like legal documents. Figure out how to parse this. Like there's one startup that does proceedings on like mergers and acquisitions, and so there's like kind of within those contracts you have like a very specific like set of rules of engagement, and so like they built an AI around like, okay, here's the actual like value between who's like winning on this engagement and who's losing on this engagement of doing like this acquisition. And so like that's a very niche use case, but it's like so powerful because it just saves like hundreds of hours of like back and forth like writing and then like having to revise with like a lawyer. Obviously you're still gonna need like a lawyer present, but it's definitely more hands-off-ish approach to that. So it's very powerful utility.
Very powerful and very valuable too. And I want to I just want to make sure I like highlight this because I want to come back to it. But you mentioned the importance of, even though these tools are getting more powerful, that you still need an actual professional in the room and basically like I don't know. At some point, I want to talk about the gap between AI and like human like skill too. But Loki, I wanted to look at this somewhat from like the entrepreneur perspective because I'm thinking of like if you can serve that niche of people with a tool that powerful and you're saving them that many hours, that is like
Yeah, yeah,
multi-million
like
dollar
it
business.
the legal company sold for a couple million. Like it's definitely like there's so like if you get on top of it fast and like you can
Yeah,
find a niche and like a use case for it, like definitely it's going to be worth like the time spent on it because it just pays out so well.
like Loki, hold on, just like the formula, like it's literally like freaking like a math equation, bro. It's like,
Yeah,
bro, it's like okay, it's literally that exact service, but just switch out like the profession, like, and then specifically if you're gonna do that, I kind of think like, okay, I'm trying to give somebody like if you're watching this, here's a scaffolding to go make money if you have like a laptop and some time to learn how to code-ish a little bit,
yeah,
and like, maybe you don't even need to know how to code, considering
yeah,
like there's LLMs that can like code for you. You just gotta
yeah.
have the platform, the plan, and you have the plan, the platform in this game. And so like,
Like
hmm,
yeah, like that's super. Like honestly, it's better for people outside of tech, right? Because like,
hmm,
I was at a seminar earlier this week, and it's what like these new LLMs are like powering to do for like code is it's democratizing like a programming, right? So
yeah,
like the more yeah, it's democratizing programming. So you're seeing more like vibe coders or whatever, like people who genuinely don't know how to code but still can like release something, and like that's so important in terms of like before like the previous thing was like kind of build out a solution and then like find a niche maybe, right? And
yeah,
so now it's even better than that because it's people from other industries that have a problem then can build out a solution to the problem incredibly quickly,
no,
right? So it's you like it's better for non-tech people because we already kind of like know what our problems are and can build them out relatively quickly. But it's like if you're an artist and you have XYZ thing, but you've never really been engaged within like the technical space, then that's like those are the tools that can empower you to like go out and build like what you want to build.
no bull. Like you just got Legos. Like you could just,
Yeah, you literally, bro. It's free, bro.
bro. Okay, I'm trying to think. Like off the top of my head, like probably doctors and or yes, doctors and data entry for like accountants. Maybe I don't know how tech savvy accountants are, but like if you could automate someone's Excel work for them, bro, especially like an investment banker type person, bro, hella bread right there. Who else? Who else? Who else? Like I'm thinking of like bigger market, like I guess business owners in general. Like I'm not gonna lie, just overall that this is like the more broad thing. Business owners in general right now, like their demographic tends to be older, so they're
Yeah,
just slower than you in terms of like. Although this, because I'm like a part of me gets like, oh wait, no, everybody knows this. Like this is gonna be gone very soon because everybody has these tools available. Bro, there's people who still don't know how to use like social media such as
yeah,
Instagram slash Facebook.
yeah. Like it's pretty crazy. Like
Huh. I guess I'm kind of jumping around, but like that low key makes me like wonder, like what is I guess like this is going a little bit into like the upbringing, but how is your parents' relationship to technology? And I guess a little bit more specifically, like the fact that you're so like knowledgeable about it.
yeah, so kind of like a little background about myself is like I live in Kentucky now. I was raised here,
Mm,
and I'm from a pretty small town. So my parents were like out of state, so not really like the southern-ish culture. So my dad is a professor of chemistry, and so he's like technically inclined-ish for his age group without being in tech, right?
mm,
So he like made like an Arduino board for one of his lab classes, which is pretty cool. He didn't tell me about it until like after he did, which I don't know. So it's weird because my experience is my parents were like, you can kind of do whatever you want and we'll sort of support you as long as it's like roughly out of the way and like isn't too much of a nuisance. And so it's like I kind of had like free reign ish. Like I was gifted a Raspberry Pi when I was like in fifth grade, and like
yeah,
that like really opened the gates for me because I was like, okay, my first instinct like in fifth grade was like, how do I play video games on this? But
for
then I was
real.
like, it's the Raspberry Pi. Like I could play like genuinely the original Doom, and that's about it. But then it's like after that, it's like, okay, then what is this actually used for? And then kind of getting into like the single board computers, and then wanting to like project that you really think about as like kid is like, how do I make a website? Like
Yeah.
it's like, how do I make a website? And so like you kind of get into like that web dev. And so like I kind of sat the Raspberry Pi on the shelf and then came back to it around like 8th and 9th grade. And like when COVID hit, that's when I like knew. I was like, big brain. COVID hit, the world going online. I need to get good at programming because this is going to be like an insane skill. So literally, like, as soon as my school was out, I was spending 14-hour days literally just learning programming. Like there were days I just like, oh, the sun, I would get up, I would get on my computer, I would start coding, and I just like forget that I was hungry. And then like, and then like, oh, I was fully too far gone, bro.
That's called locked in, bro. That's called locked in.
Yeah, like I was fully locked in, and then like kind of like that's how I got this scholarship, was just like literally just hours, bro. Like it's a weird, there's like obviously skill and like natural talent plays in like a part in like success. But like if I were to tell somebody to cultivate one particular thing, is just like pure obsession. If you can get obsessed about like genuinely crazy about something, you will be better than everybody else, because it's not like, oh, hey, I have XYZ natural talent. Like you're just like, you spend so much time on it, and it's really just a game of time. Like no amount of like pure natural talent will just like overcome raw time. And obsession just translates into, I'm willing to put more time into this because that's who I am. Like being obsessed with something is like insanely broken.
Bro, high key, one, shout out Kobe, because that sounds like Mamba mentality if I ever did. And specifically, like I like what you mentioned about like it's identity based too. Like it's because this is who I am.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm forcing myself to do this. It's like, nah, I code every day now.
Yeah. Like this, like it, you want it to be, you can't like have if you're trying to force yourself into doing something, you're just going to like purely resent it in such a short time period. Like even you'll experience burnout with like obsession anyway, but you'll be able to bounce back because your mind is at that point just like geared towards, okay, this is just a part of me. Like this is again, like that's who I am now. So it's like just cultivating that and just like being passionate about that. And I think we definitely need more people just like in every field that are just like purely obsessed with like that one thing.
Yeah.
They're like so much like specialization and niches. It's just like, if you can get obsessed about something, then like there's nothing really that can stop you from becoming the best at it.
Other than yourself.
Yeah, other than yourself. And like you're already obsessed. So you finished like halfway through already.
Yeah, man. Huh. And I don't know, just like a general trend. I'm thinking again, like this is my like entrepreneur mind talking, but like the outsized rewards go to the people who are A players at one specific skill.
Yeah.
Like if you look at how, like I think you mentioned like in Amazon, they're very concerned about like what gets measured gets managed, and like it's somewhat hierarchical. And like the higher you go up that ladder, the way they organize teams is, I need a killer. I don't care if you're kind of good. I need my CTO to be like the best in the field at this specific technology, and I don't care about anybody else. Like, and like that's where the obsession like pays dividends. I'm not gonna lie.
Like it's definitely you're gonna see a lot of that just like in any field, really, like outside of tech. And that's like why I think the AI trend is so interesting, because it's like democratization of like building software is like, you have artists that are obsessed about one thing now. You have designers that are obsessed. Like now they can like it's a multiplier on, or like it's a scalar factor on top of that. Like they can just output so much more of what they already like are driven to do.
Low-key, I think this is a good time to shift back into that like somewhat of a philosophical question, honestly, of like the difference between human skill and like artificial skill slash, because like I'm thinking of like the artist, and I I feel like the more optimistic viewpoint on it is to see it as like this is a multiplier to what that person could already do. It's going to like It also makes me think of like, you're not going to get your job stolen by AI. You're going to get your job stolen by somebody using AI.
Yeah.
But I guess like, yeah, part of it is philosophical of like, will AI ever reach the point of like matching and or surpassing natural human talent, and or like you could even like, because like there's one like from the technological perspective of like, is the technology going to get good enough to, but then there's like, will it ever like from a soul perspective like feel the same, because you'll know it's AI question mark. And I guess just like, what is your thoughts on like that general like body of like tension?
I actually like that. It feels the AI like will we lose our jobs? Will it empower us? It feels kind of like a binary-ish rhetoric where it's like, oh, you're going to lose your job, you're not going to lose your job. I have slightly more of a nuanced opinion. I think the future and like technology will create jobs and possibilities that we can't determine yet. And just off of that, that alone, that's like kind of like my providing hope. But it's also, I'm excited for that. Like I genuinely like I crave the thought of like being on the edge of a new world where, okay, we're at a reset of like, now there's a bunch of new stuff to do, new technologies to engage with, new jobs, new prospects. Like, what does that look like? And like, we're close to hitting that wall of like, now we have to change, because like the more that technology, like within the next like 10 months, a year, like you're going to see so much change. And I'm excited to be like my focus is how do I prepare for that? Right. It's like, how do you put yourself in the best situation possible to be able to like, okay, there's X new job that's just completely radically different and like merges multiple disciplines, like multiple studies, like across like STEM and humanities. Like, what does that look like in the future? And like, if you can reach at like trying to search for those now, and then like as they open up in the future, I think that would be huge.
I agree. And I think, actually, I'm going to be completely honest. There's a part of me, I think the fear is pretty loud in my head.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I don't say I lean towards, but to a great degree, I think the reason why I like lean more towards like conservative in my view of like the burgeoning technological revolution is a good part, like it's because of who's like at the forefront of it. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like to me, like this is very much a generalization, but it feels like why is it like weird white dudes in Silicon Valley that are like about to decide? Because like, okay, this also goes into like another, I see it as a philosophical conversation, but I might just be wrong in terms of like, and so I want to ask you the question in terms of the technical side of like how much bias is like built into the current like large language models that we have now. For example, like in terms of like what I mean by bias, I guess I'm thinking about how like vocal recognition can like, it's gonna hear me better when I'm talking like this versus like when I start yapping like this. You feel me? Like certain like I guess like dialects and or like ways of speaking get picked up easier by the AI, and like a big part of that is because white niggas wrote it. If I'm keeping it.
Yeah, and I think there's two parts of that. It's like, yes, there's bias. Like it's pretty relevant and like pretty strong, but it's like because it's like it's just training data, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's pretty cut and dry, regardless of like if like it's kind of weird because at that point it's like if I made an LLM, right? And I use the exact same data, even like as well intentioned as I might be at like supporting like black voices, right? Then it's like it's still the same training data. Like
it's only gave like, it
like there's not much that you can do around that. However, there is an interesting prospect, right? Then it's like, okay, then how can we engineer the models to do better multicultural recognition, right? So you're seeing companies like Cohere and their Cohere for AI, like their community is built around building multilingual models so that like you have like translations that are truly accurate to multicultural experiences, right? In linguistics. So like actual natural language processing, and then like the AI built around that. So like translating from like something like Afrikaans to English or Arabic or Mandarin, right? You see so much like that is a company that exists because there is like a unique like they recognize the bias within the models because like almost all of the training data is English. There's like it's like English or Mandarin because like, and then like everything else is kind of lost in between. And so what they've gone out to do for Cohere is like they reach out to individuals within like the smaller communities and like, hey, we need your language professionals, come work with us. And then that's a new job that didn't exist like 4 years ago. Like you're already seeing like the start of like the new jobs being created is like natural language professionals being paired up with AI to create the bridges, right? And so like your concern is like voice, right? So we already have like a version of that for like text, right? So just abstract that out into voice and getting like more linguistics, like more speaking data in there, and that's another new job. Like so there's so much to consider even on that that alone, and that's like I feel like that's just the start because like we already know
interface. How are people going to use the thing?
That's just the interface. Like we haven't even like gone past that point yet, and so it's like you're already seeing the emergence of like new opportunities in that space, and that's kind of like where the obsession is. Like if I had like an obsession for like a bunch of like language studies, right? You're like even scholarships like Boren, where it's like, okay, we'll send out students to study this culture. Like cultural and linguistic studies is so important right now on the international space, and then getting obsessed within that, and then using technology on top of that and AI on top of that. That's so huge. That's such a big market. And it's also enough of a niche to where it's like you can be truly the best at that if you just like hunger for it the most.
Yo, you ever watch Hunter x Hunter?
I have not.
Damn. So okay, but like, because I don't, this reference might not hit, but like if you've ever watched Hunter x Hunter, bro, the analogy I have for this, like it feels like the Dark Continent, bro. And like, all right, I'm about to drop some like anime lore.
Wait, okay. I watched a bit of the tournament arc, so I'm like, yeah.
Okay. I don't want to spoil it too much then, but like the Dark Continent is in like one of the later arcs. It's an arc called the Chimera Ant arc. I'm assuming you've probably seen some like stuff.
Yeah, I've seen clips of the Chimera Ants, yeah.
But pretty much, the easiest way is like the Chimera Ants, they were like the big bad of an entire arc, but they were from the Dark Continent. That's why they were tough. But that's like ants to them.
Yeah.
Like the Dark Continent is like very like much like this nebulous, very like powerful, spooky place. And like it's basically like I have so much power in my little pinky, I can nearly wipe out y'all. And it's like I feel like that's high key what AI like in like this new technology that humanity is getting to like learning how to harness. Because you mentioned like all this stuff with like the language, that's just the interface. Like that's just barely like trying to step up. That's just trying to get to the island barely. And it's like it makes me like, and it's like the unknown. That's really what it is. Like the unknown is a bit scary, but it's also very exciting. And like just seeing like I don't know, man, we're on a new frontier, and it's really cool to like I get to live in this, bro.
Yeah, that's definitely like my perspective on it, because I think it'd be very, and like to me at least, it's kind of uninteresting if like life was stagnant. Like I remember there's actually I have like one point that I got from. I went to DC last year. We had this like venture capitalist, like Aaron Gupta. He was basically like, life isn't nearly as linear as you think it is, right? And so like the traditional way is like go after high school, and then you go to high school, like college, like maybe graduate school, and then do X job for like 20, 40 years, something like that. And it's like for him, he was like, yeah, I did my undergraduate. And then he was like between like the VC, private equity, like just bouncing around. He teaches at Georgetown. Like he's like, there's so much that you can do, and then like there's so much opportunity that like for you to do it, right? Like life is pretty long realistically, and so there's just so much opportunity in like how long we have with life. And as like I appreciate like how fast things are changing. Like it is kind of spooky because it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And then you want to feel like a sense of security and stability, but it's like if you're ambitious enough and like just have enough internal drive, you'll figure it out. Like it's gonna suck, but you're gonna get there eventually. like it's like once you, it's kind of like those like really those kind of like mediocre CEOs. Like there's some people that just fail upwards, and like after you get to a certain point, you can't really fail, right? Like you'll always just keep progressing regardless of how much you suck at maybe like XYZ thing. And it's like you're like once you're on that level, you're just on that level and you can't really go back down. Because that's like who you are now. Like you've built up a community that will support you, and like you have like the skills, whether it's business acumen, whether it's like technology or art. Like you can't fail past that anymore. And so it's just it's like getting to that level is like kind of is like the hard part, right?
Yeah, it's like how do you can't unteach yourself how to ride a bike.
Yeah, you can't really unteach yourself success at that point. And so like once you learn it the first time, you're kind of good. And then like for as far as like the volatility and the unknown, is like I've been recently trying to like position myself as like a hedge fund, right? So like hedge funds and like trading firms, they make all of their money when markets are unstable and highly volatile, right? And like that's like when the average person like is obviously losing. So you don't want to be the average person in that. You want to be the person that can capitalize on the opportunity. So like have the mindset is like there's so much uncertainty. What can I do in this very instant to just capitalize as much as I can on top of that?
Yes, bro. What is it? You just reminded me. There's a course I'm taking this semester at MIT. It's called Venture Engineering. It's taught by Bill Aulett. And in like one of the first couple like days of the class, he showed us this slide, and it was like the difference between like I'm forgetting the specific names, but like the difference basically is like okay, there's passive / reactive, there's resilient, and then there's like proactive / robust. And you want to be on robust because you want to be on robust, and like more specifically what those three mean is like how do you respond to either times of adversity or like you mentioned uncertainty and change. So like there's one version of like, oh man, I'm cooked, I'm gonna let this cook me, like I can't do anything today because XYZ is happening, I'm just ineffective. And then you get the middle where it's like you're resilient, where it's like okay, I'm just gonna stay status quo, like I'm gonna just keep pushing, and then there's instead of like it's like okay, boom, I get punched in the mouth, but this time this is an opportunity for me. It's like okay, there's uncertainty, this is like low-key. If you ever, I keep using references, but like if you ever watch Game of Thrones, there's a scene by Littlefinger and he's like chaos is a ladder, and not necessarily the most aspirational dude, but he's like I would say someone to look for in terms of turning insecure situations into their benefit.
Yeah. It's there's one like I was playing like a video game or whatever, and like one of the main characters, her thing was opportunity and chaos, and there's just like that's just like it's weird because like you like chaos that like has like a dark connotation because it's just like it represents instability, which is like the opposite of what everybody wants. But in like a society that's like structured, it's not like it's zero sum, but it feels close to it like most of the time. And it's like you really just want to get to that level of success where you know you're okay, and then it becomes stable for you. And so it's just like, how do I get to that? And it's like you have to find the opportunities in like it's a weird optimistic view, but it's not really optimistic at the same time because it's like you're cognitively aware like just of how bad things you are, but you need to push forward anyway. There's like a phrase where it's like when you're walking through hell, like when you're in hell, the only thing to do is keep walking, because what are you gonna do? Stand in the fire? Like that's the only option. It's like that is the chaos. Like hell is the chaos. And so it's like you have to keep like moving forward and like just trying your best anyway, because it's like the first two that you described, it's like okay, you can burn, you can just like try to resist the fire, or you can keep walking
it's
like those are your only options, like realistically. And so it's kind of like it's definitely like that. It helps you keep like at least recognizing it helps you keep moving forward. But it's like it's in between like a pessimistic and like optimistic view of like you still have to like the goal is to succeed anyway, and like whatever it takes to get there, kind of.
Real. And I'm not gonna lie, man, I think that's like Well, okay, I'm very much biased, but I think that's the correct decision.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you're like realistically though, like it's like conversations like these are so like really engaging for me and like are kind of like enlightening and you learn so much from them. But then you have like a survivorship bias of like who you're talking to. Like so I
Yeah,
met you at Nesby, right?
yeah,
That's it's a financial burden and opportunity cost to even go to an event like that, right? And
yeah,
so it's there's the survivorship bias in me going there and then like you could have not been there. But if you weren't there, like we wouldn't have had this opportunity and like those ideas, this type of conversation and these ideas, and like we're talking about okay, the only thing to do is move forward. Realistically, the most of the people at Nesby or like the more private events that you're going to be going to, although Nesby is pretty big,
yeah.
it's you're there's a lot more people going to reflect that mentality, right? And
Because
so
I'm
it's
pretty
like
unfair.
like you're there, right? And that's this like I had a conversation with like a Toyota engineer while he was there. It's like
Mm,
there is a bias in okay, you're engaging and interacting with people, so you don't really get to see the full plethora of like the landscape. You're only seeing most of the time most of the ambitious kids. Like you're at MIT. Like you're not going to find a singular non-ambitious person at that campus. There's literally none. like, so it's like there's you kind of have to recognize like that bias in like like that's in and of itself a social circle that you've built around yourself. It's like it's realistically it's only going to be like the top 20% that you interact with just because who you are at this current moment, and that percentage is only realistically going to get smaller. Like the more that you build your entrepreneurship skills, the more that you succeed, the more you get followers. Like the willingness, the opportunity to meet regular people goes way down, and the amount of people that are just like high achieving just go straight up. Like you're gonna be like talking to multimillionaires pretty soon, and you're gonna be like, how do I get to that level? And then you're gonna be at that level being like, okay, I met this billionaire yesterday. He told me X, Y, and Z. And then there's just like there's so much because of like that bias of okay, you've already found like the initial social circle into getting success, getting the
mm.
top 20%. The the next is top 15, top 10. Like
It's just spiraling up.
yeah, it's spiraling up, right?
Okay, hold on. You just sparked like a bunch of different thoughts in my head. The two primary ones are one, like you are the average of the five people you hang around, and then
Oh, I
two,
love that one.
going back to that other like that point from earlier of like that compounding interest.
Yeah.
And like because you mentioned like I'm only like I'm your circle that you're around is like pushing you upwards, and it's like it's you mentioned like that starting spark or that starting circle, and I'm just
Yeah.
like going like tracing it back. I'm like, hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like it does have a starting effect. Like mine was like oddly enough, my school's like gifted and talented program, which was like
Yes.
which was it's such a no, because it was like 10 kids, right, out of the class of 70. And that circle only got smaller by the time I graduated. It was like four of us by the end, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, and then I get to university, and then like that my characteristics and like social ability was built around being in that environment. So when I got to school, it's okay, here are the same like types of people that reflect my own personality, and you're just going to keep like it compounds over that, right?
Bro, I feel like that's a canon event, bro.
It
Like,
is a canon event. 100% canon, bro. 100% canon.
and it's like, and then like I said that, and I'm like, oh yeah, canon for like I guess like the Loki. I'll take a stab at like trying to describe it of like the circle of like yeah like high achieving slash like ambitious people.
Yeah.
And like it goes back to that point you mentioned of like yeah like I'm like I've heard that same story, like I'm like yeah because you're in MIT, like of course,
Yeah.
duh, that's how they like they did the same route as you.
Yeah.
Huh. And then okay, and then like and something else that had popped into my mind was like a sense of because like yeah what had emerged was a sense of gratitude, and then the question is around I guess faith, because the faith aspect also I guess tied a little bit to that like pushing through the hellfire because you know like their only way is through. I guess like more specifically the gratitude was like dang, I like to a degree, I did control. Like they took me to like the little room where they gave me the test to see if I like get sorted into the gifted class, and whatever innate abilities I had showed up in that sense. And I guess that's a sense of like I did something to earn it. But like I could have just also went to a school where that they didn't have that program.
Yeah.
And so like I wouldn't have gotten filtered that early, and like maybe then the what do you call it, that chain reaction, or like that compounding effect. What do you call it? Like that chain reaction started.
Like for kind of how I have a really interesting thought to that. Like my the way that I got into gifted and talented was because of social studies. I was really good at, so I still love, like, I don't get me wrong, I still love so, but when they told me that's why I originally got in like elementary school, I was like, there's literally no way. I was like, I thought it would be like for math or science, but it was social studies, right? And so it's like it's going like, yes, if you went to a different school, right, you might not have had that program, but realistically, it was probably going to happen either way. Like you're going to find a way to, like, because it's just reflections of your own character, right? Like the 5 closest people that you're spending time with are already people that are basically like you, like they already have common traits with, right? And so like regardless of what environment that you're going to be in, you're gonna find the people that are nearest to you. Or like in my case, like I had the internet, so I just found other nerds on the internet that were like, okay, I want to talk. I joined like teen programming Discord server, and then we talked about like Python scripts and like React, and then Django or whatever for like web technologies, right? That was like that was that way of finding, like, while they weren't physically present with me, that was like a way that the internet enabled that that interaction, like as a conduit, like to get that. And it's like the more that I got into technology during high school, like, because like I was from a small town, the less I became like involved in that my town, right? So it's like I was in a town of like 5,000 people. There's not that many people going to be interested in tech, so I just spent most of that time online, and then that prepared me for being at Amazon. And then my manager was like, "You're like one of the best interns that has walked through these halls," or something. It was like, because like I was already like obsessed within like learning the technical space. And so it's like, yes, there's going to be probably periods of time, if you don't find them initially, you're going to find them at some point. And then that's like, yeah, you're behind on compounding interest, but you're gonna make that up, like, because you have more free will as an adult, right? So it's like, okay, like, did you really choose to be gifted and talented in like 5th grade, right? Like, or like elementary school? Like the answer is kind of no, but it's like, it's an opportunity that you took advantage of. But the more that you get, you have a greater urgency, like when you're older, right? So it's like, okay, now you're actively, you have more agency, you have like more desire. Like the older that you're going to get, like the closer to like 9th grade, sophomore year, you're like, okay, now I have to seek out these opportunities because I want to be at MIT. Like if that's a goal of yours, you're going to find them, and that's going to be like the groups that you're with now. And so it's like, yeah, it's really cool to be in early, but like you can't really place that much, like, I don't like to place that much merit on kids, because it's like I kind of have the perspective of like, let kids be kids. It's like it's kind of weird how much, like, even like the whole university system, like how it's set up, it's like you have like 16, 17, 18-year-olds signing like large loans, unless they're like super broke or super rich. That's very, like, that's an insane like financial decision most of the time. And it's like there's so much weight into getting into a good school and then getting a good job after that. It's like, okay, you don't want to set like the deterministic, oh, you should have done XYZ 8th grade, so then you could have done this sophomore year of high school, so then you could have gotten into this university. Like, they're kids, bro. Like let them chill out. Like, genuinely, what the hell? Like, it's such a like I like the thought of like keeping, like, moving the pipeline closer to like the later half, so you at least get to have time to like a child should not like have like the strain of like focusing on like, okay, how do I pay for school? Like, that's insane.
Multiple things that pops into my head, brother, I can't speak, but the things you said made multiple things pop into my head again. One of them was like a point that had stuck out was like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So it's
Yeah.
like is I think your internship at Amazon is like very characteristic of that. And like even then it wasn't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say
100%.
luck. It's just like
No, like,
good stuff happens when preparation meets opportunity.
yeah, like it's definitely like, yeah, like my preparation was like, hey, those 2 years that I spent before, and then like the opportunity was, hey, that package coming into the mail and being like, hey, you got an internship your first year at university, and I was like,
Mhm.
damn. And then like by the time I got there, I was like, my main focus was like, how do I get this return offer? And then like, even then, like I leveraged like my offer to stay for 6 months. So I did a double rotation my freshman year, right? So like freshman summer and then like my sophomore fall, I stayed. And so 6 months at Amazon, like my resume is stacking, like big popping. And then like, yeah, like right now. So it's like, and then that like the second half was so much harder than the first half. So I just like built so much more skill on top of that. And so it's like that second half wouldn't have happened without like the previous preparation and or like also being good. Like just like because in order to get like the extensions, you need a like a really good midpoint review and to be approved by like 3 senior managers, right? And so it's like you'll like whenever you're like trying to do like changes within like the typical structure, you're going to get a lot of resistance. But as long as you're like really good and really obsessed about something, you're like you'll find a way to get it. And I think actually that's kind of like what I want to talk about later is movement within companies and then like kind of like navigating that landscape if you want to go down that road. But yeah.
We could go right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess like, yeah, what was popping to your mind?
Yeah, so pretty much it like there's Amazon at least, and like for the most part, a lot of the other big tech companies, this is probably gonna pertain mostly to internships, right? In my original Amazon offer, it was you can extend your offer by 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks with just automatic approval. You don't have to go through any requests. Anything longer than 4 weeks requires like 3 L7 approvals by like finance, hiring, and then your actual direct reports. And that document requires like your midpoint review, which is like 6 weeks, and you can't submit that like no later than 3 weeks before your original deadline. So you have about a 2 week window to like also write. Like I think I ended up writing a report to my manager being like, hey, this is like documentation of what I've done. And then obviously he has his own review that he wrote of me. And so it's like using the leverage that you already have in a company to like get what you want. And so it's like my leverage was like, hey, I'm also doing really well, and the project that you like tasked me on is like a really large and like complex problem, and given more time, I know I will be able to solve it well, like way better than like the original time allocated, right? And so like through that, it's like that step alone, and then it's you have in order to like get something from a company, you kind of have to prove like, hey, why you want it, why it benefits them, and then like the why it benefits them is like really important. So I was based out of the Seattle office for last 6 months or whatever, and then I made the decision to switch to the Arlington office in Arlington, Virginia. Right. And in order to do that, most of the requests for internal transfers were denied. Like all my friends got denied from like their transfers to like Atlanta or like New York or the other sites that they wanted to go to. Right. And so there's multiple like kind of factors in that. It's Amazon has is like organizational structures, and it has like by teams, and it has department structures, right? And each site has like the its own like collection of organizations or like teams within that site, right? And they don't like to move around interns because they've already it's an investment piece, right? So say like think of like from the company's perspective, right? You've put somebody at an intern like position in Seattle, right? On like let's just say the Amazon's like the Go team or whatever, like the self-checkout team, right? That was at minimum a $30,000 investment. probably closer to like $50,000, right?
Mm.
The intern is then asking, hey, can you put me in XYZ? XYZ, like if you want to site switch to like Atlanta,
Mm.
XYZ, like Atlanta might only be an AWS team. They've already put a $50,000 investment into you to be good at Amazon, like Go or like a self checkout. It would be losing them money to then switch you to another team, because then that team has to retrain you. And like kind of like the biggest aspect of that is like the retraining and like the departmental switch. So I made a switch from Amazon stores, like online shopping department, into AWS and like their dedicated cloud team that like is government contracting, right? And
Yeah.
kind of how I got away with that is um it was a department switch, which they don't like to do, and it was a team switch, which like they kind of don't like to do, but they're fine with it. The department switch is like they really don't like to do, because that's when like their big retraining kind of has to go into effect. It's like, now we have to teach you like all the AWS stuff. And so in order for me to prove that, hey, I'm qualified for this job, was like by approval of my previous manager, and basically being like, I had to be on call and then like explain what my projects were on my previous team and be like, hey, these all align with your AWS current like projects, right? These are all like I was working on RAG, I was working on networking, I was working on like Docker implementations, I did server hosting for them. Like those are all AWS like related technologies and are very specific. So it's like I had to prove that I didn't need to be retrained, or like that their investment piece originally was worthwhile in getting that switch, right? And so it's like moving forward, it like that's definitely like a consideration that you should have. Like obviously you're going into like the entrepreneurship space, but like for like engineers, it's you're living from your perspective as, hey, I really want to be in X location, but think about it from like the company's perspective and its perspective of like actual monetary value, like of what it would cost them, even if like hey, it doesn't like affect your pay or like how much they spend on you. They've already spent time on you, and for a company like at scale, that means a lot. And so like kind of like my step-by-step like process on how I got the team switch is I first reached out to a team manager that I wanted to work under, and then from that team manager I was able to align skills and then be like, hey, I can do XYZ that your team does, and then go from there, right? A lot of my friends, what they ended up doing was just contacting HR directly. That 9 times out of 10 will not work. Identify the teams that have like the goods, like identify teams like that the people work under, and then make a human connection between like who you want to work under and then like why you would be good for the position that they want. Like you need to be able to like those communication aspects. It's you have to be personable. You have to get them to like you and advocate for you within the company, because if like you get like when you're accepting a return offer, it's you're no longer really in the company anymore. Like your original contract ended, you don't have any internal advocacy, so you have to find somebody that is willing to advocate for you in order to get the team switch. Like you're even though you have an offer, you're not actually in the company yet, right? And so it's like recognizing, hey, like I have to find somebody that is willing and able, and then like my skill set aligns with what they want as a team, then kind of going from there. And I think a lot of my friends and other interns, it's like they're reaching out to HR. HR from their perspective is, hey, we've already spent money on you, we've already invested in you. Hell no, we're not going to transfer you, bro. Like we have literally no reason to do that. And from their perspective, you haven't proven to them why, because you're just saying, hey, I want to move here. They're like, and like why, like that does, like who are you? Like they don't know who you are. Like, and so it's like you have to find somebody on like internally, and then like identify who you want to work under. And I know this works at other companies, because my site change and team change was inspired by a Microsoft full-time engineer and intern. He worked under he worked under one of their different departments, but he was like, hey, I want to be on the Azure AI team. And so he used their internal phone tool to find somebody that worked under the AI team, and like he reached out to them, and then he got that transfer, and he's still working under AI as a full-time employee there. And so it's like you have to find people first and then like connect with them in order to do the transfers, right? You can't just talk to a monolithic company. Had he just gone to like Microsoft's HR and be like, hey, can you please switch me teams?
No.
They ain't clearing that shit. They were like, hell no, bro. They ain't do that.
Bro, you know what's okay, like again, mad, insightful, and enlightening. And like as a result, something that popped into my head that I guess I just want to harp on is the understanding of the counterpart, like of like who it, like understanding your audience of any messaging that you're trying to provide. Because like, yeah, and I think it's really interesting because yeah, even like in the pitch in terms of like the persuasion, I guess like levers of influence that you had pointed out is a lot of like technical reasons of like, hey, I can do this thing. Yeah. But then I'm really glad you also attached the like more personable aspect of like I also like found somebody there who already likes me, bro.
Like I'm like in order for like splits, you're going to see this like change like percentage wise across industry. Like I was talking to a Microsoft engineer earlier this week, and for her, she's a PM, and her like for her finding teams, like she's like it's like 30 to 40% people. Like you want to find like the managers and like the teammates that you want to work with before realistically doing anything else. Like, because if you're like obviously like your first internship or like the first time you're coming into a company, you don't know shit. So like,
oh god,
yeah, like you don't know anybody inside. You know, like the more that you get accustomed and like acclimated, and like even the more that you go, like the older that we get, right?
Yeah.
We know a bunch of people. Like a lot of my like John's going on into like Bloomberg or whatever. I have a couple friends at Apple, like a couple people at Google, a couple people at Palantir. It's like that's our network, right? So we already have people that we want to like probably work with in the future. And so it's like, hey, you're coming out of undergrad or graduate program, like you already have people on the inside. You can then use them as like a liaison and be like, hey, can you find somebody like that I'd be like that my skill set matches with? And even that like that personal relationship that you have with people, especially high achieving people, they want you to succeed because they want to succeed. And like it's kind of like a help me help you help us like scenario, right? So it's like they're like as your friends, they're obviously gonna help you anyway, but like it's advantageous like as a career progression for everybody involved to want to engage in that environment.
Again, it's so I'm loving this, bro. Because like, okay, right? You mentioned that help me help you help us.
Yeah.
Like, because like basically like, okay, if you make that good referral in terms of like what it like you being good as the person who they put on to help their career, because like, look, I make good recommendations.
Yeah. Like it's, and I'm pretty sure a lot of companies give off bonuses for referral hires. like it's literally like it's insane value. And so it's
you're helping the recruiting team. Like,
you're helping.
How are you helping them?
Like if you're a good engineer and you know people who are already at these companies, like you're like the companies want you. They're like the hardest part for companies is like who are the good engineers? Like and like just meeting more of them and then like kind of like already engaging in that network and just like being friends with all of them is like incredibly advantageous. And usually they're just cool people. They're going to be the 5 inner people in your circle, like most of the time anyway. Like my 5 closest people are all like highly skilled engineers that are like insane intelligence and just like off the charts or whatever in terms of ability. And there's like that's like you identify who you want to be with and like want to be around. And so it's like like it's pretty cool. It's a compounding effect even with the previous things that we mentioned.
Loki, something I wanted to ask is like specifically as someone who was so technically inclined, and you mentioned how like a lot of your time was spent interacting online instead of like with people in your town. Like, how would you say that you went about developing your social skills and like being like getting that personable aspect? Because I feel like that's a rarity, bro. Like,
oh, I'm not gonna lie, I think I got insanely lucky. My personality, like my skill points, my skill point distribution was completely random. I'm not gonna lie, I have
got hella charisma and hella intelligence.
Yeah. Completely random. And like the crazy thing is, like I'm from a town of 5,000 people. Everywhere that I've gone, they're always like, oh, what's like major city are you from? Like even like the people that I go to school with now assume that I'm from the city like everyone else is, and like would not guess that I'm like from a rural town in southeastern Kentucky. And so it's like, as much as I would have said like, hey, I like actively developed like that sort of skill set, it's a lot of like passive interaction. So like my mother was like a master's in English and like creative writing. And so it's like, hey, being good at like communication was always like a strong like important factor in the like the family dynamic. It's just like they're like no bad English or something like that. Like, yeah, so it's like it's like even coming out of that, and then as a kid I was raised next to a college because my dad's a college professor. It was you interact like I very early on I was interacting with older people and like kind of more like more academically inclined people as I took like more college classes, stuff like that. And so it's definitely it's like the little things. Yeah, even being online, you can kind of find like more people that are sociable. Like I would hop on like video calls and like voice chats, stuff like that. I think if you are from, I kind of want to like help. I want to like give a special aside to the people who are from like small towns. Like if you're from us, like what I would do if I was like had like starting from scratch, just wanted to get good at communication is kind of like what I did was in terms of I listened to a lot of podcasts. You learn to write really well. Writing really well. Also, like one of the big things that like my previous manager like was like, hey, your technical ability is good, but you're also just way better at writing technical documentation and then like what you actually put out as an engineer. Like the higher that up you go, especially within a company like Amazon that so values like writing, is like the higher up you go, the more writing that you're going to have to be able to do, and the more that you need to be able to explain complex topics and ideas. And so getting used to at least writing very well also like helps like speaking ability. A lot of my writing is like very reflective of like my natural professional tone, and so it's like a weird creative like playful funness, but like also kind of dry-ish, like professional enough, like professional passing, right? And so like that's just kind of like how I write. And so developing a good writing style and then like trying to at least getting online, getting on Discord calls, video calls, finding Discord servers, finding small communities like on the, like I mentioned earlier, the creator Lovely Transposition. He's like, he has a lot of the people in that server are like 15-year-olds absolutely killing it in terms of programming ability. Like they're like insane. They're like, yeah, I'm like, they're like doing embedded systems and like learning Zig and Rust on like their like Arduinos. And I'm like, yo, what? I was like, these kids were cooking me, bro. At 15, I was just making like garbage like PHP websites, bro. Like they're like they're like doing embedded programming. I'm like, yo, what the hell? But like getting into like those spaces and like just truly using like a lot of online, there's like a lot of dead internet theory. It's like, oh, online's too disconnected, everything's just a bunch of bots, but you can genuinely still find like real people, like smaller creators are definitely like kind of like the biggest in that is like, because you can actually engage with them. Like if you're following somebody with like 200,000 like 500,000 followers, you're never really going to talk to them. Like I've actually had like one-on-one interaction. It's like with smaller creators and like within like those communities, it's super like engaging, and then you can kind of get the most value out of that in terms of communicating with other people, technical writing, because they'll ask you about your projects and you'll ask them about them, and even like just asking people questions about how they built something. That is in itself like what my project manager did. So you then have to like, okay, and then they'll ask you, hey, why did you do X, Y, and Z instead of JFK or whatever? Like they'll ask you the questions of, hey, what were your like engineering decision-making skills? And those questions in of itself like are insanely important to ask. And so being like consistently being able to like defend like the reasoning, not like defend, but like explain the reasonings behind like using certain technologies or going about like the architecture in the way that you did is like incredibly valuable for like long-term ability and just like early career start. At least like from my experience at Amazon.
Yeah. And honestly, just like zooming out one more level, it's just in general, like if you're going to be making a decision, you should know why you made that decision.
Yeah.
Be able to like, yeah.
And like I kind of preface that now, like the most is because like with like AI stuff, it like takes a lot of the decision making out from you, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask like, hey, ChatGPT, build me an app that can do X, Y, and Z, right? It builds you an app that does X, Y, and Z, but you don't know why the hell it chose what it chose. Like even in its explanations, it'd be like, okay, this is how this works, this is how that works. But it's like most of the time it'll default to like using React, right? But maybe you're wanting a static site, so you don't need that much content. So using a static site generator instead of like a bundle size that it's like a gigabyte sending down to the client, that doesn't make that much sense, right? And so like generally getting a reason why for like, hey, this is like why I did this. And like a lot of my time at Amazon was like researching different technologies and then picking the best technology from like it's a lot of like abstract ideas in terms of, okay, this database works better for our use case because the indexing time or the vectorization time for the RAG process is faster, or the retrieval time, this database has better similarity searching ability, or we can put more data in this faster, it has a better like push time or whatever, like things like that. It's like, okay, then you need like, it expands like the full breadth of like engineering, because it's like you're going into minute details, right? And then you'll see a lot of that in like the conversations about like system architecture, stuff like that. It's like that's like when that becomes most important, because it's like, okay, you built it, but even like a lot of times you're going to be thinking about how you build something before you start building it.
Yeah.
Like generally speaking, is like you don't want to go into like doing something completely blind. You're gonna want to figure out, okay, this is the technology that I want to use. Here's why I want to use it. Here's like the competitors, right? So like Microsoft just released like a new compiler for TypeScript, and they wrote it in Golang. And like the reason for that was pretty specific, because it's like, hey, we needed a garbage collected language, right? Instead of using Rust. And so it's like, it's fast enough. We need it to get we want it to have like almost full compatibility with the other compiler. And that's like a very high level like explanation, but it's like you need to like rationalize out those decisions before you like kind of you get too far in, and then you have like sunk cost fallacy being a problem.
Yeah. Okay. That reminded me of like a bit of our conversation earlier about like the need for like still having like the AI can't do all your work for you, because it might make those shortcuts without it. And that's why it's still valuable to develop the skill, because I feel like the people who win for real are the coders who use AI, like people, the computer scientists, I guess I should say, like the people who know, like, because you have to be able to like point out like that strategy issue, and that requires wisdom and experience. And something else you had mentioned of like when you were presenting like the justification for why you went with that specific technology, it was like the metrics and the quality of the metrics. The specificity and quality of the metrics you use, I feel, is a very high like reflection of someone's given skill at whatever that task may be. Oh dang! Wait, did the internet cut?
Oh no, my iPod's on low power. No, but yeah, that's like, I 100% agree with that. It's it's interesting to see where like programming ability comes in when we're seeing like more AI tools. I think for large companies, right, like there's going to be a lot more startups that are building faster, but Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, or Meta, or whatever, they all have code bases that are really, really old. Like some of my teammates were using like Java like 8 or something, right? And banks use Java 8, maybe 17, like who knows, right? And so you're still gonna have like an insane amount of legacy code bases and AI, or like, and then like you have critical tasks, right? So like defense contracts, like medical, banking, those are all still on, like the point of those is for stability. Like they don't need no cool shit. Like it's literally like they just have to work and work consistently, like as much as possible. So it's like for them, it's like they still need like human engineers, because it's like they need like the most amount of reasoning and logic in order to defend like any change that comes in within like the technology or like the current stack, right? So it's like you're gonna have like an interesting split of like legacy companies, and then like companies built after like 2026 are just gonna be like insane fever dreams. Okay, we built this in like 2 hours or whatever, and then like it's gonna be like Next.js on top of Vercel, and then just like whatever on the edge computing platform it is, and then that's gonna be every app, right? But then like actually like companies that are worth a lot are gonna still need like really good like system architecture like engineers, and then you have like we see like the tech landscape as purely software, right? And you have a lot more interactions with non-software, right? So like within Amazon, we have a software product, but we still sell physical things and we have physical distribution. Like they're not building Amazon with AI the way that it's like currently constructed. There's like the complexity is just too high, and like the optimizations that we have a sciences department that's just literally just a bunch of PhDs from like whatever, like as many as like we can gather, like Infinity Stones or whatever. And so it's just like those like really high level, like high complexity companies, like they still require a lot of like man labor, I guess. I get human intelligence. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, HI. Let's go. We'll acronym that too. But yeah, you still need a lot of that, and so it's gonna be interesting of like how like legacy software moves forward in terms of like actually interacting and engaging with AI. But yeah.
Slight tangent, but I think that like same principle or like same question is being posed like not just within the realm of technology or I guess like programming, but I think like high key, like I keep making everything philosophical, but I think it's like it's just a higher order of abstraction, and that's pretty much what I think it applies there as well. Of like the legacy and the older ways of thinking and like how they're still required, I would say, in tandem and like in conjunction with these new like the way we think, I think is like it's fundamentally shifted and different than like how it would have been if I would have spawned in like say I was born in like 1980, because like the amount of possibilities of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then make AI do this part, and then that's just not a way you could think, because what the hell are you talking like that's mad.
Yeah. No, it's like it's weird because like tech has what's like that is most, I feel like has like the biggest case of like chronological snobbery, right? And so I think it's like it might have been like C.S. Lewis or somebody else that it's like humans have like the natural inclination to think that we exist at the end of history, and like anything before us kind of just sucks, right? And so like tech at its fast-paced movement is always just like, what new JavaScript framework are we going to use to replace React, right? And so it's like there's so much of that, like, oh, the new is always better, and the history is done for, right? Like nothing
with the 90s.
Yeah, nothing is like relevant in the past or something like that, like to that effect. And it's like they're in terms of like decision making, you have to be able to like kind of rationalize, hey, what's just like this absurd nonsense of like, oh, like, do we really need AI here? Like, there's a lot of companies that are just putting AI in like just random shit
on everything.
Like, yeah, like genuinely everything, and it's like it's not like a core product feature. And so, and I think that's like the biggest side effect of putting like tech nerds like where realistically tech nerds should not be, because we just haven't like you want to build cool new stuff, and we like shiny things.
Yeah,
and so it's like you need more classical thinkers in terms of like, and this is like where I see like kind of like the traditional businessman like really being important in like actual decision making is like, hey, what do we actually need in this? Like what technologies are actually relevant to our business model, and then like how can we improve upon those with the technologies that are at our disposal. So, and like even and I think this like the AI like craze like most like kind of reflects like it's more effective, but like it reminds me a lot of like the Bitcoin craze of like the original goal of like, not original goal, but like what like like the Silicon Valley kids were like always trying to do. It's like, let's replace everything with like a smart contract, right? It's like, let's put like your the ownership or like the deed of your house on a smart contract, or let's put like medical records so they're like immutable or something. And it's just it's like technological supremacy that's just like completely overtaken reason, because it's like there's the like you have like technology, it feels like, okay, this is like the best of like human mind, like this is like the end of like our evolution, is just like building more technology and then trying to like retroactively put that in everything else. But it's like like technology is a tool, but it's not like the actual end all be all to reason. And so like differentiating between like, hey, like let's not make everything a smart contract, because that doesn't make any sense, and also is super insecure and really dumb for a lot of reasons. And so it's like, yeah, like there's so many technologies I feel like that are like AI is the most recent one, and like you had Bitcoin before that, but it's like the farther you go back, I feel like there's just going to be like more instances, probably like smaller level, but like more instances of like just, okay, like this is like a very like, you kind of have to like, tech culture is within a niche itself, right?
Yeah.
It's a very strong niche and it has a very big voice because like it affects so much of like what we do like on a day basis, but it's still at the end of the day a niche, and you kind of have to be able to like have the wisdom to block out like, okay, what are these nerds just like on about? Like,
bro, because high key, like specifically like with I guess tech in general, especially if, like how like within the tech community, how people get with their specific tech of like, oh, I like Kubernetes, or I like this, or like people get a hammer and then everything's a nail. I'm like, oh, I can use an NFT for that. It's like, bro, does it really need it though? Game?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's like, and that's kind of like the biggest thing with like that I thought, like we were talking earlier, was like the niches, right? And that's why I like the thought of tech being like more democratized, is because it's like before it's literally that hammer and nail scenario. Like we build out a new technology, we're looking for problems. But if it's people outside of tech coming in wanting to build a problem or build a solution, they already have the problem, exists. Right? Yeah, the problem like actually exists in the real world, right? And so that's like, I think that's like the most important feature of that is like, hey, we can't just let tech people just run around with a bunch of hammers and like think everything's a nail, when some nails are fine, just leave them. Like,
yeah. And then it's like, I think you had mentioned a bit earlier, like the melding together of that, like you said, I think you had mentioned it as like having the business dude in the room.
Yeah.
Like melding together the practicality with that like technical ability.
Yeah.
Also going back to like some of my like, because I think it's like, I don't know, I take it for granted because I go here, but like I'm sitting in a room full of MIT entrepreneurs and I'm listening to how the sauce of like these top whatever percent people teach each other how to make more money. Like, oh my God. And this I need to pass down to y'all niggas. So listen real quick. Right? Check me out. Right? So basically the issue that they're running into with I didn't, not to you. I'm like, I'm
gonna listen though. I need this knowledge. Give me the sauce, bro. Dog, I'm not ahead of my team.
But like pretty much the issue that MIT people run into, especially since it's like Institute of Technology, is that they'll fall in love with said technology without tying it concretely to who is it that you're solving a problem for. And then specifically, because I'm taking an entrepreneurship class, they're like the single like necessary but not sufficient condition for any business is a paying customer. And I feel like, especially like within this tech bubble, everyone's like, I made it. Like, look, I made this app. Look, I made this, or like, look, I did this with this technology. But I feel like I don't even like, okay, right. A part of it is like, who's going to make the most money is the people who can solve like problems for people. But I don't even care about it from the money perspective. I care about it from the fact that like you're creating value and like direct good for people. Like, hey, yo, if you're going to get really good at computers, do it to help people. Don't just do it to make bread, gang, please. Yeah. What else? In terms of, and then I'm not gonna lie, the recipe, I'm not gonna lie, that they're pretty much giving out is that, I don't know, because the recipe they're giving to us since we're MIT kids is slightly altered versus like if that was a Harvard class. But yeah, and so I think I just want to, it's like the recipe in general is to have a combo of like have the technological, like the CTO and CEO essentially. It's like And the thing of like the reason why like I said it would be different specifically with Harvard is because like a lot of the times is what'll happen is like, okay, it'll be some MIT person who makes the technology or like does the technical like hard brain power work, and then it's like a Harvard kid who knows how to speak and or commute, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's a flip dynamic of like, okay, the Harvard people are going to be the CEOs, and they need CTO ability, and the MIT kids are the CTOs that need the CEO ability.
Yeah. So the thing is, and I feel like, yeah, the people probably listen to probably fall closer to that. Actually, I don't know. I hope I draw.
I think you're getting a bunch of CTOs in here. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this is a very CTO heavy account.
Okay. But yeah, and like what I feel like honestly, that is the better position to be in because like learning social skills is easier than learning how to code. I'm not gonna lie to you, gang. Arguably, I guess, but like, bro, you can go learn how to yap from like if you're watching a podcast and read a book. Like, okay, go learn some. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like the farther I get into like my technical skill, I'm like, dang, I low key know a lot of physics. I need because I'm mechanical engineering. Like, I'm doing like building robots. And I'm like, damn, like, what if I didn't know like the torque speed relationship or some bullshit like that? It's like, damn, that's wild. But basically, it's look, you're in a more like leveraged position because you are like the means of production to a degree as the technical person. And so like just being, because like really, especially since you are a technical person, I think a useful framework for me has like in terms of like learning social skills, because for me it was like this is going a little bit back to like that upbringing question and like how you develop those. For me, I approached it like an engineering problem. I'm like, I see this deficiency in the system that is Ruben Stevens / a person, and like I need to fix this. How do I get better at talking to people? And so like I went and found the resources and like I guess like I found the materials necessary to build this new feature of the like whatever. I don't know what I'd call it, like the system. Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. Like I'm building a system that is myself and it's like self-improvement or whatever. And I don't know if there's any more. It's just like you're particularly and so like that problem in terms of like solving it, you have, if you're like technically inclined, you have a lot of the bag to be able to do that. It's just like just apply it to this specific domain, and I feel like bro, you could do it particularly easily, and then you become this is what I'm aspiring to be, is you become a one-of-one player. If you can like be your own CEO or like you can be your own translator / spokesperson, you unlock like, and I feel like you have that like the story that you were telling me about like, oh yeah, this is how I switch myself over, is like that's what happens when you combine the two. You get crazy shit, gang.
Like you get away with a lot of things that other people didn't even know were possible before. And like the more nonsense, like the more that you do, the more comfortable you are with doing things that are kind of irrational on paper. Like if I like even my extension that I had for staying in Amazon for the fall, like that, like the other interns were like, why are you doing that? Just like graduate early. But then I was able to use that. Well, like that is a legitimate reason. And then I was like, but it's like, like there are good opportunities, but not all opportunities are good for you. And I think it's like, you have to realize like, there's so many things to do, but you kind of have like, what, like, at the end of the day, it's like, it's your life and you have to like be able to like be comfortable with what you choose. And then like, it's weird because at the same time, you don't actually have to justify that, right? Like it's just you. And like, you'll see, because like before we're talking about like, okay, you have to justify like your decisions to like HR, stuff like that. But when it comes to like own personal decision making, like as long as you can like have this like the foresight to see like where you want to be and like the person that you want to become, like how you get there, or like you don't actually have to explain too much to other people around you. They will like I'm kind of at the position where it's like you'll see why I did it once it's completed. Like once I'm done, you'll see like the decision making. And I like the people that I told that to 100% understand the decision making. I'm in a significantly better place now than if I didn't do that. And so it's like, it's definitely like it goes along with your like your question of faith. It's like like that decision was hard for me, like because it was a lot of work. I was still like taking classes, and so it's like I was putting like 70 to 80 hours in the office while still taking like online classes. Yeah, like Amazon was working me like a dog, bro. Like it was crazy. But it's still like I knew at the end of the day it was gonna be worth the investment. And it's just like once you like know that cognitively, like, and you believe in it, like I guess that's enough faith that you kind of need. It's just like, I know this will be a good thing for me in the future.
Yeah.
And it's like you're kind of there, and there's also a difference between doing things that are hard because you choose to do things and things that are hard happening to you, right? Like, yeah, like there's that active player mentality. Like you choose, like in my case, I literally chose to go into the hellfire and then walk through that, and I was like, I'm gonna be fine at the end because like I had a set time limit. It was like 3 months. Like I was like, I just gotta survive. It's like was like the Halo map where it's like it literally just says survive at the top of it. It's like like that was me, bro. I was like, don't fucking stab myself and then I'll be okay. Like, but so it's like that was like that was just like the position I'm in, and it's like you want to optimize for the things that you can control, and like I think that's like kind of like my biggest takeaway. It's like a lot of things happen that like reasonably like you can't really like account for. Things happen for like because somebody else decided to do X, Y, and Z, and that affects you because it just happens to affect you. But it's like as long as you like you have to learn to be able to control the things that you can directly control and also things that you can kind of indirectly control, right? Like and like the more variables that you have at your disposal that you can move around and like play with, that the better things become for you. It's like increasing the amount of free will that you have, right? Like you have a baseline level, but like the more that you can like genuinely optimize and like control your outcomes, like the better those outcomes are going to be because you literally control like what they are.
Bro, two things to that, because it goes back to that point you had mentioned earlier about like it's gonna look crazy on paper and or to people around you, but something that I wanted to say is like, nah, it's a calculated risk. Like it looks risky to you because you didn't go through the same things I went through. Like I seen this part, bro. And I was talking to her name's Jess, bro. Shout out Jess, I love her too. And like because we had like that same like like I do like because I remember she had asked me like, do I see myself as being particularly risk averse or like risk like I guess averse? I'm like, I would say I'm like I would describe myself as being particularly cautious, and that's because I just don't see the things I do as risky. I'm like, like I see the thing, like I see through the hellfire to what's on the other side of it. So like this is it's calculated.
Okay, I see. That's honestly, I like that self-awareness because it's like what other people's like would rationalize as risky, you just have a higher tolerance for it, so you're kind of blind to your own decision making in terms of like how risky things are because your tolerance for risk is just like naturally higher or something. That's so interesting. I actually kind of like that.
But it goes to like what you were saying about like it's tolerance for risk, but it's because I have a wider, I guess slightly wider net of variables that I feel like reasonably can control. And you can't control everything, obviously. Like that goes going back to that like faith point too. Is like there's a part where I'm like winging it and like low-key, hopefully this goes correctly. But it's like I think, and it's like the active versus passive version of it. It's like seeing it as like who gonna stop me versus like why should I be able to? Like those are two very different questions that someone can ask, and I feel like it's reflective of two different like orientations towards life. And I feel like and another thing, like I had mentioned too, like the second thing is like it reminded me of David Goggins and like Jordan Peterson style of thinking, or at least it was ideas that I had come across in tandem when they had been introduced into like my thinking as well. Of David Goggins is for I guess additional context, I feel like most internet people know him, but like he's an ultra marathon runner. Definition of grind set, bro.
And Navy SEAL, like crazy.
That guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's like he is like the epitome of like go if you do it like he has a book called Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And it's literally about that of like, bro, if you go into it and like I chose this bullshit, like as much as it was me, at least I decided to do it. And it's like I think the Jordan Peterson reason is because I can't remember them off the top of my head, but when I was listening to him say it, he had cited specific like psychological and or neurological like papers that were done on this, like the physiological response you have to stress when it's like chosen or versus like willing, like you're an active participant in like putting yourself under that stress is like I don't want to give any numbers because I'm wrong, but like,
there's definitely a difference.
Like 10 times reduced, bro.
Yeah. It's like yeah, I'm glad like it's definitely like I think that goes like to the point of like a lot of the ideas and like philosophies that I have now is like that I've explained. It's that is just like a lot of just like picking out like, hey, these are it's weird because it's like at the same time it was like, oh, you're on the internet constantly, and while that's bad for most people, like a lot of the time, you have to be able to like rationalize, hey, what's actually good content, and then like
Mm.
what you choose to believe in, right? And so it's like those like a lot of these like influencers or creators and stuff like that will say a bunch of things that it's just like I just don't blatantly believe in that. But it's like I even from David Goggins like that it like aligns with like that Mamba mentality. And I got the walking through hell thing from Peterson, I believe, like sophomore
Mm.
year of high school. Cause that's I feel like that's when it was like really big for me. And it's just like you like there's so many things to do, and then there's so many people telling you what to do in that. And it's
Mm.
like I don't feel comfortable being to like telling directly somebody like, hey, do X, Y, and Z like
Yeah.
most of the time, unless like I have like insane domain knowledge for whatever reason and know that plan would work 100% of the time. It's just kind of like you choose for yourself like the things that you want to do and want to believe in.
No bull. Huh. Hikey, like, yeah, I would say like I relate to that very heavily of like I think personality wise, I'm very much like do your own adventure type beat of like
Yeah.
who I don't know. I'm very I think if I were to like not political at all, but like libertarian in that sense of like let me do me, you do you, like
Yeah.
leave people undisturbed. And I don't and I, it seems like I don't know, I see somewhat of a parallel in that like what you just said. And that's not, I think it's interesting to highlight because that's not necessarily the case. There's people who like wake up or like not wake up every day and that's off the top of their mind, but the people who
Yeah.
very much I want to be in control of other people and I want my words to have like direct deterministic ability over others.
Yeah. Yeah, like I actually that's I'm glad you kind of like brought that up because it's definitely like I kind of like share ish the similar philosophy as like hey I like the worst thing that like the biggest thing like um I think it was like have you watched like Endgame or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like the actually I think I might have written a paper or something about it, but it was like
Hmm.
at the end or like I watched a film review or something, but it's like the subjugation of will, right? So like you have like the will of yourself to do basically whatever you please, right? But where the line is or like where like kind of like the darkness is at is just like when you oppose your will onto other people, that's like that's the evil. Like like genuinely like that desire for control of other people. It's like there's basically no way you can cross that and like be in a morally good position. It's like when you like actively force other people to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's no, like it definitely like coincides with that belief. It's just like, hey, let me do whatever. Like this is my own like lifestyle or whatever. And it's like even if you know you have a like your end of the day, like, okay, this is my hope for the world, or
Mm.
this is like my ambition, or and this is how I see like the best like outcome. The people the people around you have to choose that. And I think that's kind of like the aspect of like leadership is like you have to provide a good enough argument of where people like want to like follow you.
Yeah.
Like within like entrepreneurship, like you have to be a good spokesperson, you have to advocate for yourself, your company, your vision. And I believe it's I've been reading Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince.
Hmm.
And so for him it's um um people are uh eager to follow like the idea or the vision itself, right? So it's like if you it, if you provide a man or like a person, right, the like financial riches, right, they have the same level of loyalty to if they also gave you something, right? But what people need like fundamentally is purpose out of that. Like if you choose to like be a spokesperson or a leader in a particular area, then you have to provide like genuine value, and that value that you provide to them in terms of philosophy will will be like why they're loyal to you.
Mm.
And so like you can kind of see this in even like pop culture, right? Is like
Yeah.
when people like stand for some like stand for a particular like philosophy or something, whenever they choose to turn against that or even like waver in that, their audience completely turns against them, because that like the reason why they were loyal to them was for, it's not for them, it's for what they represented. It was for an ideal, right? And so
Mm.
it's also like you can take that to be hyper political as well. It's like
Mm.
that like your political candidates, like you're following them for ideals, like what they represent, not the people themselves, because you can't really know people like that are like in actual leadership positions and that are
Yeah.
like multinational, let alone like the president of the United States or something. But you can follow their ideals and like choose to believe in that.
Mm. I think in okay, again, multiple things, but I want to harp on the fact that like very much lead a horse to water, but if you're like trying to dunk the horse's head into the water, you lost, and they're like, doing a bad job of it.
Yeah.
It made me think of like going back to that Jordan Peterson, I guess, or just no. It's I think he just happens to be one of the, because like in like that same sort of like arc, like that high school sophomore ish, of like when it hit, and like he was the main, I guess, voice that led it to me being a bit more open to hearing the arguments or like font. That's what I use a lot, like the font of Christianity, because these ideas appear in many different ways, but like one phrasing or like embodiment of them is Christianity. And like something he had mentioned, or this is just like within all like religious scripture, I guess, but like that all Christian, because I feel like there is a bit of like distinction as you go to different faiths, but like it's very much like a God knocks patiently at the door and invites you to join, as opposed to like drags you in kicking and screaming. And there's something in the fact that like one of those resonates with me more. Like I like the patient knocking, like that feels more aspirational to me. But one, there's people who see religion differently, where they see God, like their version of God is a bit more domineering, more Old Testament. And the fact that I see the way I just described it is very, it has my fingerprints on it because of like me being who I am. And I don't know, I think it's really interesting that okay. And I want to see, I'm going too many different places, but like the reason why it's like that is I think very heavily tied to my upbringing and like the way I see God, and I don't like authority has to do with like the way I see my bio dad. And I think there's other people, and like I crave autonomy. Like I don't want anybody like policing or domineering over me. But there's also people who crave that strong leader. And I think I just think that's really interesting.
I think we had the same arcs, bro. Literally the same arcs, along with the list of the same damn problems, bro. Okay, like I'm about to get deep into like my personal self, bro. The main goal that I have is to be free, like freedom from everything, bro. That is my number one goal. Like that's what the money is for. Like genuinely, like the money, the taxes within the United States. I want to get like citizenship in Malta so I can just go anywhere I want and not be taxed at 30%. That is my driving motivation to genuinely feel freedom.
Yes, bro.
That is everything, bro. Like bro, that is, bro, insane.
I think like when I list them the most, like I drop them, like the two that always come up is like freedom and authenticity. I said that too fast. Freedom and authenticity of like, don't tread on me and let me like let me get my piece off in like without being disturbed type shit, bro.
Yeah. Like
real, what the fuck, yo,
that's so crazy, bro. Bro, like, bro, that what you just said, bro, that hit so hard. I was like, man, that's just me, bro. That's crazy.
I guess, bro, why do you think that's so? Or I guess, like, at least for you.
Like, for me, I was born in Ethiopia, and then I was adopted into the United States. And that process was, like, I was in Ethiopia since I was 4. Like, since I was, like, 4 or 5, and then adopted. And then I stayed in the same town for 16 years.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of it, it's just shackles to me. I never want to feel shackled to a land a place, especially a place I don't identify or belong. Like I didn't meet another one of like my people, like biological people, until like I was like 17, right? So
Oh,
for like 13 years, I was completely isolated from my own community, like
yeah.
at least like heritage speaking. And
Mhm.
like like relating to like my bio father had passed away, like that's why I was in adoption. Like
Mhm.
that's like a lot of that is so much of my life was completely out of my control. And so it's like for me, it's gaining control of everything that like I can affect. It's like this is how I want to live. Like I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and people can shut the hell up and let me do it. And like that is like it's I don't ever want to feel tied down to like I don't want to have like blind loyalty to something or just
Yeah.
like be like stuck in a location, especially a boring one for that long again. Like God, bro.
Yo, cause why we twin gang and like
We do it like it's insane, bro.
I want y'all to meet. I want you to meet Jess, bro. I'm not gonna lie, cause like I said this, bro. Cause why are we all twin? Cause it's like, and like okay, my bad. I'm speaking too fast again. But like, bro, and it's like it's so fitting that we all ended up choosing engineering. Cause if you think about what engineering is and does, is the tool by which you can exert autonomy and control over the surrounding world around you.
Yeah. No, for me, it's like the programming thing was like for somebody who had such little control over their own life, code is literally I control everything in the digital world. Like I can like you're a creator. Like that's what code is. Like it's the divine biological set of principles, and everything within that is like my vision. Like it's limited by my own will. And so that's like why I resonated with computer science so heavily and just like building. It's just an extension of my will on like to be like it's a way for me to be free.
Yeah, yo. Whew. Another thing, okay, I might be tell me if I'm wrong here, but like in terms of like reaching for parallels, that was a good portion of why I was also very much on the internet / online. Cause it's like I might not like my direct surrounding. Here's a version of escapism, and then it sounds like escapism. Okay, plus I'm in this new world. Oh, now I can be the shit in this new world too. It's like it's a meritocracy.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, nah, you're not reaching. That's it's literally it's such heavy escapism. It's unreal. Yeah,
bro.
But now, bro, I want that escapism in real life, bro. I'm not trying to because I value real things so much, and I think like I love like classical like 70s to 90s cars, bro. I love mechanical watches. I love fountain pens. I love like the text. I love the feedback and like responsiveness of real life. Like nothing can really compare. And I hate like the digital taking over everything because it feels so lifeless. It feels soulless. Like I like cars because they're engineered like to be magnificent. That's that's why like somebody spent hard work. It's art to me, right? And so it's like while the digital world was escapism for me for a time, it's like I need to live in real life because that's really the only thing that matters, and that's just where the most art is, right? In terms of like it's like the beauty of engineering exists so much in real life, and it's like magnificent. Like I love architecture, Gothical architecture, and like East European architecture. Like the more you get like closer to like Austria, bro, it's just beautiful sculptures. And then like, bro, you got like the Islamic sculptures, bro.
Yeah.
They were balling out in like in just math back in like the 14th century, bro. They were like algebra. We literally own that, bro. Don't play with us, bro. Bro, it's so beautiful. It's like think about how beautiful like that architecture is. It was literally inspired by God to them, and they were like, we're pouring our entire heart and soul into this and the best of our scientific ability. And like I'm just like, yes, it's perfect. It's literally perfect. I'm like, I need more of this. So it's like I just want to see the most of the world because like how much engineering and art like beauty merges together in so many places.
Okay, I'm about to take this on another weird like shimmy or whatever you want to call it in the narrative, bro. Because that you just mentioned like beauty as like something to be interacted with and to encounter, right? Because this is also during my trip to Chicago. I have a friend. His name is Sunny. I have an episode with him. Shout out Glenn Sunnywood, and he's that guy, right? But he's a Chicago native, and so I was there while we were there for Nesby Nationals. First night I get there, I hit up my boy. I'm like, "Yo, what to do?" Like, "Hey, yo, I'm in the city. Are you still here?" I hit him up. I'm like, "Oh, are you even still here?" He's like, "Yeah, bro. Pull up, slide." So I pull up, and then I'm in a room with him and a whole bunch of like art people. Shout out Camille and Ian Bacon. They're really really cool. I like that, like, bro. And so I'm not going to dox too much, but like we're vibing. I'm like drinking a little bit, you feel me? And like we're just yapping about art, and like the way they described it to me is like they gave me this like they're talking about like, okay, like you encounter the sublime, which is like an extension of God, which is like, okay, at the top of the hierarchy, I guess. So like,
Yeah.
God creates just in general, and then you encounter the sublime, and then you experience beauty, and then that experience of beauty during your interaction or experiencing or being in the presence of the sublime
Yeah.
is what connects you to God.
Yeah.
This is very like mumbo jumbo, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like I've been that's really interesting too.
It reminds me of like Platonic philosophy and like the world of forms. And so basically there is in like the metaphysical abstract, there is a perfect representation of everything. And we identify things by that perfect representation, right? And so there's a perfect definition of beauty, and that beauty was created by like Plato is like just would be atheist or something. But like an interpretation of that is like God creates the perfect representation, and everything in earth is a imperfect reflection of that representation, right? And so like for beauty, it's like our art is your every art piece created is in order to get to the perfect representation of that beauty, right? Because it has like a perfect definition.
And in addition to that, like I'm looking over like the notes that I have with them, like in like I have okay. I don't know if it's gonna even show.
Bro, that is not showing. Whoa, wait. Okay.
Oh yeah. Plus I have a blur.
It's like I was about to say, how is it blurrier when you're like moving it closer? Because I saw like 4 words. I was like, wait, what?
But it doesn't like writing specifically doesn't matter too much. But like I have like next to like the descriptions or whatever, it's like God, and then they have state of being, and I feel like it's really interesting how, because you mentioned like how Plato's probably atheist, and how like I don't know, for me personally, like this goes back to that question of faith. I don't know exactly where I stand on it now, and like I noticed myself like why I stopped. I'm like, it's why am I saying it like that? I found myself moving a bit towards like being more comfortable using the font of Christianity. But to me, like my like what the belief I resonate with most heavily is that they're all just different forms of the same sort of message. And specifically with state of being, that like stuck out to me is like if you are like into like I guess like Eastern / like Buddhist and like Taoist sort of philosophy, like that the emphasis on like meditation and like the fact that like the divine for them is like a state of being, and like it's like you're trying to you're not completely like I'm also, mind you, I'm nowhere near an authority. I don't want to step on anybody's
No. Like I like junior year of high school, I was like I did a lot of like religious studies, and so like for like the Eastern religions, it's like the inward self is a like trying to reach that like the highest level, and like to reach like Buddha, which like it's self-made into God, right? And then like for the Western religions, it's like the purification of like your own sins, and you kind of see that like how each one reaches like each side reaches like its interpretation of like perfection in like, okay, is this an outward effect or is this like an inward effect, right?
And I think so like beautiful, and that's really the thing is like I don't think either of those answers are correct. I think especially as a person living in like the changing climate, like the hellfire is looking like rooted in one of those views, I guess. But like
they got hellfire in basically everything, my boy. That's they were like, nah. I bro, it's very I think non-specific, I guess.
But I was gonna look, I want to go back into that, but I was gonna say like it's useful as somebody living in like 2025 onward to have both in your arsenal. And that's the way I see it, as like, okay, sometimes it's more useful for me to think of myself as this like deep nebulous source of everlasting like wonder in terms of like, and then like my pursuit is looking inwards enough until I find my true self in terms of like that more Eastern thought. And then there's also times where it's useful for me to be like, I need to subsume my own internal, like whatever I want in service of this greater whole. And I feel like that's what like the Western philosophy and like I guess I think of Christianity when I think of Western. That's biased because I live in America.
Yeah.
I think of that. That's a utility that has a lot of like, it helps people be able to put us.
I think that a lot of what you just said goes along with the your like reflection of like free will, right? And so for like finding like in like the like Platonic philosophy, it's like you're trying to find like the perfect self, right? And so like I have a vision of like the perfect version of me, and I'm trying to get close to that vision, right? And like the perfect version of me, like you can make the perfect version of you whatever you want it to be. However, in order for me to like you're saying like you need to subside like your own internal desires to for the betterment of other people. That doesn't even have to like live in contradiction with the perfect version of yourself. If you believe yourself is a man of like community and like honor, like those are, you're trying to reach that form of you, right? And so like it's very it's that vision is like it's inherently like individualistic, in which it's like a self-made journey, right? But in order to get there, you like the people around you are utility for that, so you have to grow with them. And it's interesting because it's like one of like the most popular like genre of like literature in the United States is the self-help book. And it's like in no other like culture is it really like that. Like in like the Eastern, you'll see like a lot of poetry being like their most popular form because it makes sense. But like within American culture, especially, it's like trying to reach, like we all have like, because it's usually like ambitions of like, okay, you want to lose weight or you want to make a bunch of money. It's like a lot of it's not like, or like for even like Jordan Peterson, it's like 12
rules for life.
12 rules for life. I read in high school like the 48 laws of power, which is a very interesting book to read in high school. And honestly, it has served me wonders. I'm not gonna lie. It literally like a lot of like the way that I interact in like corporate environments are very heavily shaped by that book. So yeah, definitely like engage with that more. Honestly, I'll probably go back for a reread before I start like a full-time. But yeah, it's like that, trying to like you're weeding out like, hey, what do you actually find value in? And it's like they all of the religions have like a set of rules. And I think I wrote my Common App paper, or one of my Common App essays, about like the continuity between religions. And I chose continuity because I was taking calculus at the time. And so it's like there's it's for the most part a closed group. Like they all have like variations of like more or less the same things. And it's like you can choose how you get there. Like they all have like their own versions of like sin and like the bad things that will happen to you, whether that be like a bad reincarnation, or you'll be sent to the non-favorable realms of samsara, or like whatever. Like there's always like a negative for like your effects upon other people.
And like being misaligned with whatever, not necessarily an ideal, because it's like it comes in different fonts. But like I'm going on an aside, but if you like I think it was like, again, I'm glazing Peterson, I guess, but like because I guess, but it's not even him, it's not even his idea, it's something he had like, it's just getting passed on. Like that's just like citing my sources, it was probably like a video I watched of him. But like the definition of sin is an archery term, and it means like straying away from like true bullseye or true center. And I feel like
that reminds me of like Aristotle's philosophy. Going back to more bro, I've been reading because I have a class, political leadership, and we read classical philosophers. And so like Aristotle and Marcus Aurelius was, evil doesn't exist within like the natural order of nature, right? Because nature permits death, destruction, and a bunch of other like other like things that we consider bad, right? But those aren't inherently moral, right? Where evil exists is within like you have nature, and nature in of itself is a self-actuating perfect life, right? So the things that happen within nature are always perfectly good because they are within nature, and nature always acts within reason, right? So nature is the representation of perfect reason, right? And so human order exists more or less outside of that nature. And what we're trying to do is between our virtues, like virtues are a representation of perfect reasoning to get to nature's reasoning, right? So
Mm.
things like wisdom is a perfect reflection of experience, or is perfect reasoning within like actions or whatever. And things like courage are a perfect reasoning of fear, or like how much fear you should have. And so Aristotle writes that everything can exist within a golden mean, right? You can either choose to be like stupid and like always like run out with pitchforks, like as like overt bravery, or like cowardice and hide and never show anything. And like courage is like the perfect reasoning between the scale of, okay, this is like the rational but bold thing to do, and then you're always reaching for the perfect mean between everything. And so it's like that is like it's perfect reasoning.
That sounds like Taoism.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
emphasis on balance. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Like,
so like you'll see the golden mean within like a lot of Eastern, because it definitely focuses on more on like internal reasoning, whereas like Western religions focus more on sin and just removing that aspect of the life. Whereas Taoism and like a lot of Eastern philosophies are more focused on realigning yourself within nature, or like within like the karma or whatever. But
yeah, I think I've low-key been dancing around this question, but like I've been, yeah, I think I should ask it more explicitly. No, damn, I have to do another skirting around because I'm interested in like the specific part of it of like which one, or like which mode of thinking do you feel like you reside in more often?
So the weird thing is I have like a recognition of my own ego, right? So
Mm,
even like my motivation for getting into computer science, right, was like it's the thing that I can control the most,
yeah.
right? And so like you kind of have to like that in of itself is a flaw that I deeply have. And like I'm aware and cognizant of that, is like it's kind of like a controlling nature. And like where I set my line is like, okay, I have a desire for like it's like the inverse effect of like just having so much other people's will opposed onto me, that
Mhm.
I want control. And like that control, like you can't control everything, but when you try to control everything, you're controlling the people around you. And so there's
Yeah.
definitely a line there. And it's just like, okay, so how do I fix that problem, right?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely like which the I guess I would line myself more against like Eastern philosophy, right? Because it's definitely, for me, it's okay, you control everything internally.
Mhm.
And like I believe like as a motivation, like I was told, I think this might have been Pierce, I don't know. But it's you want to be the version of yourself that the younger you would be proud to be.
Yeah.
And so it's you're striving for like the you're striving for like your own sense of perfection, which I guess like is something like Benjamin Franklin does like in his autobiography, where he writes out his own virtues that are inspired by Cato, but that's more classical philosophy stuff. So it's all like there's so many
You know,
yeah
just I just want to throw this as an aside. That sounds kind of like recursion, like where you're using a function as if it already exists, and so
oh
it's like,
yeah, I guess you could see that, yeah. um yeah, like you already have like the definition, like inherently, like I guess Eastern philosophy requires you to believe that there is a perfect version of you,
mhm.
in order to ascend to that perfect version. Whereas like the West is like you're born imperfect, but you're trying to get closer to like the like another like a version of perfection, right? So it's not you that you're trying to get like reach up to.
It's what
It's
would
like
be.
it's like Christ, or it's like Allah. Like you're trying to follow in their acts, and not like what you internally think is the best version of you. So it's like a external role model, I guess. Yeah. I guess it's like representation or role model. For like Eastern philosophy, it's like you create your own role model.
Yeah. And so I say similarly, I find myself like leaning, I if they're like medicine, I take the pill of Eastern thinking easier than I take Western because I have a weird prejudice against authority. And
yeah,
also,
I don't. I'm honestly not sure how I think of it. Yeah, no, I guess I like dislike it. Too many of my characteristics are just like no authority and like let me be free.
yeah.
That makes yeah.
And okay, because yeah. And what I've been on recently is like I like again like being conscious of like that self-awareness of like, okay, I see that is one of my like defining characteristics of like not wanting that. And like to a degree, I'm like, oh, is this me avoiding fire? Or like is this me like trying to like is this me like just burning instead of like, okay, going through this and like electing it willingly as opposed to like letting it happen to me in turn. And that's why I'm like, that's what my relationship with faith has been a lot with recently, like this wrestle. Like, I don't want to listen to nobody. Like even this God character seems like, who is this nigga in the sky telling me what to do, bro?
Yeah.
That's been like my overall suspicion and or like issue with it. Like, but okay, hold on. Oh, and then like I guess like more brass tacks. I just wanted to ask like, what is your relationship to Christian? Not Christian, just like I think I don't know if I'm like being recursive, but like I wouldn't call like I guess yeah. Let me just go first, I guess, because I keep not asking the goddamn question. What the hell am I trying to say? Version of an answer is like I wouldn't describe myself as like an atheist exactly. I'm somewhat agnostic, but leaning more towards faith. I very much started off atheist. Like, nah, yeah, everybody who thinks that there's a God is just using it to cope with like death anxiety. Y'all stupid. And I'm like, there is merit. Like the Jordan Peterson stuff was like, okay, I could see the utility in this, in sense that it was like, even though this might be something for death anxiety and like societal control and like people who use it, there's a way to use it as a sheep, but then there's also like merit that you got to give respect where respect is due. Of like this idea / like this framework for understanding existence in general around you, like look, survival of the fittest got here over 2,000 years. There has to be something good to it.
Yeah.
And then I think like more recently, like college years have been, I feel like I've been getting more like the gratitude aspect of it, as opposed to like I think I'd mentioned earlier, like kicking and screaming, like they're pulling you kicking and screaming versus like a knock on the door. I feel like I've been getting like more door knocks and or like experiences directly with like the gratitude and or that like wanting to exalt the thing that is higher than myself, whatever it is. And so I wanted to like ask that same question to you.
Yeah, I think I actually kind of found a more similar timeline. So I was raised under a Methodist Christian church, and then kind of like guess like freshman, sophomore year, I was like, nah, this doesn't feel right. And then I kind of picked up Jordan Peterson and became like, okay, this is like there's utility in this, even if it like feels just like kind of crazy and like there's like actual practical value in that. And then like what I found like nihilism to be like just horrible. That's like that's what I was like really against, and I'm still very much against nihilistic like tendencies. It's like there's I think kind of like around that time I was told every person has their own God, and their God is whatever they're willing to die for and they value the most in life. Like that is like, because that's what controls you. That is everything about you. That's who you believe in, right? So when you say something is like you value the most, your entire belief system, like, because we need something to trophy, like as people, like if you don't have your own God, you have nihilism. And
what you put at the top of your value structure.
Yeah, whatever you put at your top of your value structure, that is your God. And so like without like that sense of direction, and you see the nihilistic tendencies, there's genuinely like historically there's nothing but destruction there. It's like it's horrible for your own soul, like you're mentally out of it. Like I like the people that I was like that I interacted with in like high school, and like the adults that were like self-identify themselves as nihilistic, like just horrible positions. And so it's like you have to like as like a human, you have to have something that you like fundamentally believe in, right? And
Mm.
so it's like for me, it's like being Ethiopian, like you're in the Orthodox Church, right? Like
Mm.
that's like default settings.
No, what
Like,
she's on it is the
bro,
fact
that
that
is
factory
literally
default.
default settings. And so it's like I would put myself like closer to the agnostic side than like the direct like Christian faith side. And
Mm.
I think I've been that way. I haven't really like actively like interrogated those ideas for a while. But like too much of my life I feel like has been a weird coincidence for it to be
Mm.
like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like there like so many things happen like incredibly favorably to where I genuinely believe that there's like, oh yeah, there's at least some divine spirit that's just like pushing me forward, and that gives me hope. And like if like I'm not going to be like, oh like somebody other people have to believe in the same thing. Like I don't really care. Like as long as the people that I interact with kind of have at least a sense of hope for the future and for themselves, that is what I value, because the nihilistic version of that is just no hope and nothing really matters anyway. And that sense of despair is something I can't really stand to be around, because it tears you apart, it tears the community apart as well. Um,
Mm.
and so it's like it's generally an avoidance of nihilism, and like just seeing like the beauty that the other men in history, when they aspire towards their perfect image of God
And
within art and architecture, I love that too much.
real. Oh, my bad. Social white knight in me is also women. High
Yeah.
key.
Oh yeah. Well, when I refer to like man, it's like mankind, not like
Yeah.
a literal man. Most of the time, it's like I use it interchangeably. It's like reading too much like philosophical text. Man is
Mm.
like an all-encompassing term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to my ladies. we love y'all.
Oh God. Damn. Okay. I I don't even know how I should exactly like frame this, because like I feel like, oh, I'm being slightly pedantic, and like, but I am like, okay, basically the thought that had popped to my head was like, huh, it's kind of like interesting how that's a reflection of like the low-key misogynistic version of society, where it's like that, because then it's like, look, damn, this is gonna be like disco here for a little while. There's a point and I'm gonna
Oh
find
yeah. I
it's
got
like because then it's like chicken or the egg a little bit of like, okay, is the gender named after the fact that it's all encompassing, and then, or is it that like we gave the one that was attributed to niggas the one that like, okay, niggas just speak for everybody,
you. Yeah.
or is it like, oh, since like, but either way it feels like low-key like self-glazed in terms of as dudes that it's like only
Oh
man.
yeah. I mean, like obviously, like if you like read like Plato or like Aristotle or like Marcus Aurelius, like they don't really give a fuck. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like, and honestly, when reflecting on, like, I feel like this is like kind of where our chronological snobbery plays into effect. You have
Mhm.
to take in context of what they're living in and like the vernacular that they use.
Yeah.
Like to retroactively pre-oppose like your social norms across people that don't speak the same language as you and have been dead for multiple thousands of years is dumb as hell. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like it doesn't like even like 30 years ago, like the dialect of English that we use, like, and what would be considered like acceptable language, like Twitter in 2018 was popping off trying to cancel motherfuckers. Like I can't be bothered to like, oh, like I don't know, like it's kind of like a free will thing. Like if you choose to be like offended about how I just refer to people like in general with like kind of like no gender like disposition, then that's your imperative. Like you could like people will always find a way to be mad about some shit. Like
Yeah.
really, like genuinely speaking, like people are gonna get mad. You're gonna get mad. Like, but like let me get if you like read into like the value of what I'm saying, like as it like means something I guess semantically instead of syntactically, and
Yeah.
then like you'll get the value out of it. But like I guess yeah, syntax is always going to be like a weird thing to look back on when you're like reflecting on stuff. I think as far as like the chicken and egg scenario, I think it's a really interesting question actually. But if I had to take a gander, I would say you have what? You have like human race, you have mankind, you have just man by itself that is usually just a shortened version of mankind.
Mhm.
Mankind, I guess, is a collective version of like society. So it'd be a representation of like those figureheads in society, right?
Mhm.
Kind of like how we see leadership in the States now. So for I guess it'd be like your first assumption is like, okay, since men are like primary leaders, then it would be mankind. But that might be that's just my like guess on etymology. But
Yeah. No bullshit. It makes like it like Loki going back to that like technical like aspect of like some of these things are like so legacy that you'll spawn in like, okay, why am I using React JS or like why am I
oh
using
yeah,
Java 8, right? And
yeah,
like the language I'm using right now, I didn't create none of this shit. These
yeah,
words I'm speaking,
yeah,
some old, not even some old nigga made it
yeah,
up because they just got passed on to and they made their little tweaks
yeah.
to it. But I just think it's so interesting, like how much, like I don't know, the we walk on the shoulders of giants is
Yeah.
a
Mr.
thought.
Einstein, I see you. Or is that Einstein or is that Newton? No, no, don't quit. Don't. I got my physics great quotes out too, motherfucker. Don't play with me.
No bullshit. But
But
no,
yeah, no, it's yeah. You like again. I feel like that kind of comes down to like you can't really control everything.
mm,
Like yes, like you need to defend why you're using certain technologies, but at the end of the time, like or end of the day, those technologies have to play well with what the hell's already in the company. If
mm-hmm.
everything is written in Java 8, if you're moving to 21, your CEO is gonna slap the shit out of you. Like, like, bro, do not do that. Like, but everything else, like, okay, like use what's like everything is like contextual. Like
Mm-hmm.
you make your like reasoning exists within whatever like there's no right answer to everything all of the time. Like there's no absolute right answer. There's the right answer within the context, and then like Aristotle's reasoning is like find that golden mean.
Mm.
So everything is contextual, not absolute.
Hmm. I guess, and I guess, do you believe in like morality or like that? Because I feel like that's or because I don't know. This is also, I guess, representative of a bias that I have or like the way that I frame it. I guess in my head, like I see it as there's a distinction between like relativity and then like I see because this is like a what do you call it? A criticism that I have of Christianity is that it's like that it posits an absolute right and wrong. And
Yeah,
I like, I guess like, I don't even, using I is also very interesting because like, who the hell am I? I don't fucking know.
yeah,
But I'm gonna go like, okay, we have to pick a level of
yeah.
abstraction.
Pick one.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck. So older me was more staunchly on like the fact that you try to like you Christianity try to posit that there's an absolute right or wrong is extremely arrogant and get off your own dick to think that you get to tell anybody else what to do.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I like to that point of like I have started to develop uh appreciation for the utility of it because if you guys don't have if there is no like contextual or like societal like differentiation between what is better or worse, you get that chaos or nihilism.
yeah.
And so I don't even my bad. That's a very very poorly formed question. Yeah, I guess the question is like, do you believe in some sort of universal morality?
Um, after like going through a couple different like philosophies, uh, um,
My bad. This is a hard ass question. I don't have no answer.
yeah, I got a weird email notification of something that I did not expect to get. Yeah, no, but that's funny though. Universal morality. I think actually I'm going to give you a weird answer. I think yes, but I don't know how it exists.
Mm. Okay, so I guess like looky-less defined by negation, because you say you don't know how it exists. One version, I guess, in which it can exist is like a freaking dictum of like, fuck. I keep throwing shots at Christian. I don't mean it that
Yeah.
bad, but it's just
No,
like
no, no, like
I was gonna say like
it's
10 commandments.
like within like your distaste of like absolute like authority and like
Mhm.
absolute morality, even with it like even within like Aristotle's like philosophy and what you'd be see closer within Eastern religions and stuff like that, there is actually still an absolute one. There's just a one that's perfect for the scenario, right? And so that's like there it like bringing about the nature thing. Like nature exists within like the absolute perfect like perfect self. Like nature's reasoning is perfect, right? And so that would be our absolute morality, is like the morality of nature. And while for them they believe like nature was self-actuating, you can easily replace nature's self-actuating a tendency with like a creator, like a divine entity that sets out up nature's absolute morality, and we're trying to contextually get to that absolute morality for each decision that we make, right? So then there's not a perfect like there's not a perfect choice in everything that we make, but like there's not an absolute perfect choice, but there's still an absolute perfect morality that we're trying to get to through our own reasoning, right? And
Mm.
so you can kind of morph these ideas into there's contextual optimal choices. I guess yeah, optimal, like choices that are
Mm.
like the here's the best choice based off of like the reasoning. And like obviously some of the decisions are going to be harder than others. Like
Mhm.
and so that's kind of like I feel like that's where like a lot of people's like, oh, it's not all black and white when they like when there is a creator that predisposes an absolute morality. It's they're like the creator's absolute morality may very well just be the absolute morality that exists in within nature, and we're just trying to get to it based off of the context that we live in right now, right?
Mm.
So whenever you make a decision, it's like, oh, these are both bad options. Choose the middle of the bad options, and then that will be enough to satisfy the requirements. But you have to be able to willingly rationalize every decision that you make. Going into things blindly is failing to live in accordance with nature. And then if you believe in so the divine.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna make a hard decision here because there's a lot I would like to go on with, but I think because it's been 2.5 hours,
We've been yapping for a minute, bro.
and this has been fucking beautiful. I've
Yeah,
loved every second
beautiful.
of it. I'm not gonna lie, but I think if you'd be open to it, I'd love to do a part 2 at some point too.
Bro, I would love to do a part two.
This shit's up.
Wait, get Jess or whoever the hell bro.
Yes,
I'm gonna call them, bro.
bro. Okay, and then so okay, but like in terms of okay, to make this a coherent piece of media, I wanted to ask if you had any like parting words or like okay, a better prompt for like I guess what I'm looking for is like phrase. Sometimes people give me Bible scriptures, just like something I guess low-key pithy that like words
Oh,
you've been using to live by, or like something that like a theme that's been recurring in your life recently.
actually,
Any all of those a combination? I don't know.
oh wait, no, that's related. Okay, so there's like a comic. This is I want to answer that, but there's a comic book.
Mm.
John Constantine. He has a superpower called the synchronicity wave, and what it is, it's he's just happens to be at the right place at the right time constantly, and it's like OP as hell. But it's like I want to live like ride the waves of synchronicity of like riding the waves of nature, and you will always make the right decision.
Mm.
Like it's like bro, it's like really dorky, but it's like I just think it's really cool, and it's like a representation of perfection or something, or self perfection.
Really hell. Okay, next time we got to talk about being comic book nerd. Could I? That was like a whole arc of my life. I look you forget
Bro,
that,
bro,
bro. Fuck.
there was the philosophy arc that I had was related to the comic book arc. Bro, it was literally so hard, bro. I got so, bro. Part two
I'm
coming to
literally gonna
win,
write that down. Comic book equal philosophy question mark, and
bro.
that's gonna be the thing I
Nah,
think.
the DC writers, bro, in the '60s and '70s were cooking.
Bro, okay.
DC Comics were lit.
No way, my iPad pencil died. Okay, I'm gonna mention. Okay, also, I just have a recording of this. I'm stupid. Okay, but yeah, appreciate you, gang. I'm not gonna lie, this is beautiful. We definitely gotta do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I'll see you, man. This was lit.
All right, man. Catch you.
Catch you.